everybody, and good morning. Welcome to our very first live stream for my intro psych class. I see a bunch of you getting logged in and joining me, which is fantastic. If you've never been on here before, this is Twitch. My name is Elisa Setmire. I'm your instructor for our class. Thank you so much for all of you joining me. If you've never been on here, like I mentioned, the best way to communicate with me through all of this is by using the chat. The chat feature, you can put stuff in there and I am monitoring it. I'll see it if you have questions or anything like that. So for example, can you all hear and see me okay? If someone could give me like a yes or a thumbs up, that would be amazing, just to make sure that everything is coming through. It looks good on my end, but just to double check really quickly. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. I see someone said yes, a few of you. Thank you so much. So, what I want to do today, and this will be the longest live stream that we have. Normally, they'll only be like 20 minutes or so, but this one will last a little longer. I'm going to kind of go over the Canvas page, the textbook. If you have any questions for me, this is a really wonderful time to ask. And again, you can just put anything in the chat and I will try and answer it. But I thought it'd be kind of fun to use Twitch. It's like a more modern platform. I thought it would be more fun than like Zoom. We'll see how it goes. But this is our course homepage, and I do have two sections of this class. So if you notice that this number doesn't match yours, I have this one and then one other one. But I want to kind of walk you through the Canvas page, walk you through some elements of the syllabus, the ebook site, and then I will every session leave some room at the end for questions and give you an extra credit question and show you how to answer it for joining me. So that is our plan for today. And again, a little longer today than normal, but I do want to make sure that you're feeling good and know where to find everything. So if you can make it to here, you're in really good shape. This is our Canvas homepage. You'll notice there's some links to like announcements, a link to the ebook site, orientation, contact information, help on campus resources, course documents and videos, and then the 8 different weeks that we have together. So everything is kind of linked right here from this page. A really great place to start is where it says start here, mandatory orientation. I'm going to click on modules so I can get to the syllabus right away. But I want to start with kind of going over the syllabus. And again, if you have questions at any point, feel free to ask. But you should have received an email from me kind of welcoming you to the class, telling you to get started on Monday. My name is Elisa Setmire. I'm your instructor. You can call me Elisa. You can call me Professor Setmire. Most people call me Professor Setmire, but either one is fine. I give you my email. I give you my office location and phone number. Always better to email me. I check my email all the time and I'm not always in my office. So email is going to be the fastest way to get a hold of me if you do have any questions. There's some stuff here about the dean and department chair. There's a little description and objectives and outcomes. I'm going to let you look over all of that on your own. Where I want to pick up is right here where it says textbook and required materials. And by tonight, you do have something due from the book, and that's my way of making sure that you've gotten the book and that you've started. So let's talk about the book a little bit. It's actually a bundle of 2 books that you're going to be purchasing. It's a self-care book and a psyched book that are bundled together. They're from the same publisher, and that is actually the only way that you can get them. But they are ebooks, and what that means is they're quite a bit cheaper than a traditional book would be. The average intro psych textbook's like $280 to $350, which is absurd. Ours is nowhere near that, which is I'm grateful for. But it is a bundle of these 2 books, and the psyched book is our main book, and the self-care one is going to be like a side book that you'll use toward the end of the semester. So I have an instruction document right here. If you click on this, it'll take you to a page with some information about buying the book. So again, it's a bundle of psyched and self-care. You'll get 2 separate emails when you purchase them, one for psyched and one for self-care. So make sure that you hold on to both and you keep both. And here's the link where you can go to purchase that. If you click on that, it'll take you directly to the publisher's page. It's $110 for the 2 together. And again, they come as a package, but you will get one email for each book. So make sure you hold on to both of them. I have some notes here and so on about them, but just make sure that you do get the books by today if you haven't already. Make sure you also register them to your appropriate class. So if you're in 72754, you'll register them to that. If you're in my other section, you'll register to your number. But you're going to be using the books constantly. The Psyched book, as I said, is our main book. You'll take all your exams on there. It's linked to like your own little grade book. So make sure you have those. That first assignment from them is due by tonight. And I gave you some information down here too, like if you run into problems with accessing them, here's a phone number and an email. But make sure you do get going on that today. If you haven't already. You'll be using, as I said, the main book, and I'll show you that website a little bit more later, and then the other one for some assignments later in the class. You'll obviously need Canvas and access to the internet. Twitch would be nice if you want to join me for these, but internet with computer with internet capacity would obviously be important. Some codes of conduct stuff. Again, kind of quickly, I want this to be a really like inclusive, welcoming environment. I know we're not meeting in person, but I hope that you all feel safe and comfortable participating and talking on here and in the discussion forums. So hopefully we can try and keep an environment where we are respectful and mindful of each other as we go through. The way that this course is set up is it's designed where you have access to 2 weeks of material at a time. So every 2 weeks you'll have deadlines of things being due. The one exception is that tonight you do have a mandatory orientation quiz due by tonight, which we'll go over in a minute. I don't accept things beyond the deadline because you have that flexibility. When everything from weeks 1 and 2 closes on Sunday night next week, everything is gone. So really, really important. If you have an emergency, if you reach out to me before a deadline, I am willing to work with you 100%. But if you reach out to me even 1 minute after the deadline, it will be too late. So just please be really, really mindful of the deadlines in this class. I'm really strict with them. Plagiarism and cheating, make sure you give me all your own beautiful, creative, unique work. Don't copy or cheat. There are awful consequences for both. There's some stuff about like Title IX and the smoking policy at the campus that I have on here. Your grade is made up of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different things. You have a little orientation, which we'll look at shortly, that is due by tonight. You have 2 discussions each week that you'll be responsible for. A couple of little self-assessments where you check in about your progress in the class. You'll have a self-care and mindfulness assignment from that book that's worth 25 points. A closing assignment, and then 4 exams. So what you can see is that all those add up to these different point breakdowns and kind of spell out what your grade would be based on points. If you have a memo with access, make sure that you get it to me as soon as you can so I can get you all set up with whatever accommodations you might need. I want to make sure you're set up for success if you do have a memo. Then there's some student tech support, some college information, followed by just a schedule for our class. So we started officially on Monday, 2 days ago. And you can see right now we are in weeks 1 and 2. And everything from weeks 1 and 2 is due by the 26th at 11:59 p.m. except for this one little orientation quiz, which is due tonight. So everything from these 2 weeks, so you can kind of work ahead within these 2 weeks, but not self-paced in the sense that there are kind of bi-weekly deadlines. So you can see your schedule all the way through. Our class officially ends on Friday, December 5th. Kind of odd that it ends on a Friday, but that was the campus's decision. So you can see what everything kind of spells out to. That is the syllabus, so make sure that you kind of read through it a little bit more later, but I wanted to highlight those important things. I did send out a little welcome letter on Monday. Here's that purchasing, registering, and accessing the textbook information, and a little video overview if you're still feeling confused. Otherwise, what I would really recommend is I have a bunch of resources here, like if you have questions, if you want to meet with each other in like a little discussion lounge, how to find me on Twitch and YouTube, which I'll talk more about later, help with technology and Canvas, how to find your grades. I have a bunch of resources here. Otherwise, if you're feeling good, you can jump right into that mandatory orientation lecture. And this is what the little quiz is based on that you'll take tonight. And what I want you to notice is that every lecture has this like 5-tab format at the top. So you can click on these to take you to the different tabs. You'll also notice at the top of each one, I recorded the page. So if you would rather listen to it rather than read it, you can, if you miss the sound of my voice, right, you can hit play and listen to it. But this little mandatory orientation lecture, what you'll want to do is read and listen to these pages. Make sure you read through the syllabus, purchase the book, which we just talked about, complete the orientation quiz, which I'll show you in a few minutes. Find me on Twitch and YouTube. So I use a lot of YouTube videos and I will be using Twitch every week. Really a good idea to find me if you can. And as you're listening right now, you're more than welcome to do this. That's completely fine. But find me on YouTube. I would say subscribe or just at least make sure you can find me easily. It doesn't cost you anything to subscribe, but that way when I post a video, you get a notification and it's easy to find. If you can, please do find me and subscribe on Twitch. And again, the reason for that is I can track your attendance. You get notifications when I'm online so you don't miss this. You get a little football cake next to your name. I'm a big fan of football and cake, which I'll talk more about in a minute. But the biggest reason is you can watch these later as a recording and still do the extra credit if you're interested. And I have all sorts of instructions of how to do this for free. I don't want you to pay for this if you can avoid it. If you have Amazon Prime, or you can even get a free Amazon student account, you can subscribe for free. It just takes a couple of steps. So make sure you find me on those platforms. That's something I would definitely do. You're welcome to do it now. So somebody at the beginning figured that out right away. But make sure you find me on them because I do use them a lot. The way the course is organized, as I mentioned, is you have access to 2 weeks of material at a time. So every week you'll be reading 2 chapters from the book. There'll be 2 lectures that go with it and then 2 lecture videos. And I'll show you what this looks like in a moment. You'll have 2 discussions every week that you'll be responsible for. So those kind of make up a big part of your grade. There'll be 4 online exams, so every other week, every even week, you'll have a test on those materials, a couple of self-assessments, that mindfulness assignment and closing assignment. Everything will always be under its corresponding week. So my hope with that is it makes it really obvious what you need to do, but I also send out an announcement every Monday with reminders, and I'll go over it every week on these live streams. I gave you a little bit about myself. Again, my name is Elisa Setmire. You can call me Elisa or Professor Setmire. I'm a big fan of football. I love the holidays, especially Halloween. So I'm very excited that it's October. I love escape rooms. I root for the Dodgers. Hopefully they keep going. I'm a big fan of like camping and s'mores. I gave you just a little bit about myself. I'm also teaching this class from home. I have 5 cats, so you might see them periodically. If they come anywhere near me, I'll grab them and bring them into the live stream. But I wanted to give you just a little bit about myself so you know the person who's teaching your class. There's a little bit here about like computer and internet help if you need it. And then on the last page, some phone numbers and emails if you need someone to reach out to. So if you're struggling with Canvas, or if you're struggling with ordering the book, or struggling with accessing the book, I gave you a bunch of phone numbers and emails. Though you can, of course, always reach out to me if you have any questions. So again, make sure you look through over all these materials, kind of make sure you're familiar with everything, that the course makes sense to you, that you have your book. Once you have your book, you can register it and access it. This is what the Psyched ebook looks like. And yeah, I did write it, which on the plus side means that I was able to keep the cost of it really low for all of you. But this is the website. There's a little like welcome video at the top. You can see here's where all the chapters are that you'll be reading in this class. So if you click on chapters, it'll bring up a list of all the chapters that we have, and you can click on each one when it's time. There's some additional resources on here. These are mostly if you were taking this with me in person, but I do have some things like flashcards, which might be helpful. There's some little test yourself activities and PowerPoints. We don't do warm-ups in here, but if you took this with me in person, we would do warm-ups. So there's just some resources that may or may not be helpful. The big thing that's on here are the exams. Up here at the top, if you click exams, it'll bring up a list of all of our tests. And this is where you'll take all the exams in this class, including that first one, the mandatory orientation quiz that's due by tonight. And so you'll see there are instructions, and then when you're ready, you can hit begin. There's a little practice exam. All it is the mandatory orientation one, like to help you with formatting. And then here's where the exams 1 through 4 will be. We'll talk about the first one next week when we get there. But let's take a look at the mandatory orientation quiz and make sure it's clear. When you're ready, you'll hit begin. But notice you have one attempt. You have 15 minutes. It's short. It's like 10 questions. And this is based primarily on that mandatory orientation lecture and the syllabus. So as soon as you're ready, you'll hit begin. So let's do that together. And what I want you to notice is it brings up the test, and you have a time limit, and it's going to keep track up here at the top. When you run out of time, it will close it. So just be really mindful of your time. You'll see that there are 10 questions. Let's say that you don't know the answer to one, you can always skip it. So let's say like, oh, I don't know number 1, I'm going to skip to number 2, right? And that's totally fine. The best way to contact your instructors through email, you would select true and then save answer. Right? When you save it, it turns like that gold orange color. You'll notice I skipped number 1. There are 2 required ebooks, right? True, right? So you would save answer, and you'll go through and answer all of them together until you've done all of them. They're all gold or orange, or you're out of time, either one. And then you'll hit I am finished, submit for grades. Yes, I'm ready to submit. And what I want you to see is that you do get a score right off the bat. I got a shameful 2 out of 10, but I only did 2, so I guess it could be worse. But it'll show you the ones you got right and the ones you got wrong. I want to point out that this does not come over to Canvas automatically. I wish that it did, but when you finish this, there will be a grade here in the gradebook on the ebook site, but it doesn't come over to Canvas. So don't worry if you don't see a score in Canvas. As long as you see it up here in this gradebook, then you're in good shape. So this Psyched book is where you'll find the chapters, where you'll find the exams, and then there's that little temporary gradebook after you complete an exam on here. And again, it doesn't come over automatically. Okay, so that is the ebook site. Make sure, again, you do this orientation quiz by tonight. It's due at 11:59 p.m. If you're having a problem with purchasing the book or accessing the book, just make sure you reach out to me before the deadline, since that's the class policy. Again, I'm more than happy to help you before deadlines, but after, it will unfortunately be too late. So here's that little module with the lecture and the quiz and a little introductions discussion to help me get to know you. And then weeks 1 and 2 are now open. So everything from weeks 1 and 2 is due by the 26th at 11:59 p.m. And what I want you to notice is for each week, it follows a very similar format. I'm super big on consistency because that helps a lot with online classes. So you'll see you have 2 chapters, 2 discussions, and then an extra credit, right? And next week, 2 chapters, 2 discussions, an exam, and an extra credit. Okay, so I follow a very similar format each week, but for the 2 chapters, you're always going to want to do 3 things. You want to read the chapter in the ebook on that Psyched book that we were just on, right? Like you want to read the chapter up here. So read through chapter 1 and 2. That's number 1. You'll want to read through the lecture that I created for you, which is right here, right? So when you open the lecture, you'll notice again, it's that 5-tab format. It follows the same format every time. Objectives and summary, followed by like beyond the book, followed by there we go. It was like it wasn't loading. Followed by in pop culture, key terms and review, and application. So make sure you go through all 5 tabs, click on any videos that I have on there, click on any links, read through everything, watch everything. All of it together is meant to help you understand the content. You'll also want to watch the lecture video. These are like 15 to 25 minutes depending on the lecture and the chapter. But it's so that you could watch them from anywhere. Again, which is why I'd recommend finding me on YouTube so you can find these easily. But make sure you watch the lecture videos, make sure you read through the chapter, and then you'll do the 2 discussions. So discussion 1 will be on chapter 1 and discussion 2 on chapter 2. So let's take a look at the discussions, and I'll cover these every week in the live stream. Like, so this week we're in week 1, so I'm focusing on week 1 materials. And then next week I'll focus on week 2 and the first exam and so on. So when you open the discussion, what you'll notice is that there's always going to be some instructions, followed by a video, followed by the prompt. And you'll see that every single time. And some of the videos are getting a little old, so you can laugh at my haircut, or like I was a little younger. And some of them are newer and have been redone. But what you want to do for these discussions is follow these instructions, right? So you're going to want to read through the chapter in the ebook, read through the lecture, and then watch my little video. What I do in these videos is go over the prompt, give you some suggestions and tips. I think that they're really helpful. They're like a minute or two max. You're going to want to answer all of the questions in the prompt right here below. Be detailed in your responses. Show off your knowledge and understanding of the materials. Think about them as like little mini papers, right? And show off how much you understand all of the content. You're also going to want to read through a minimum of 5 of your classmates' responses and respond to one of them. And that's worth 2 points. So altogether, the discussion is worth 15 points, 13 for your responses to my questions, and 2 for your responses to a classmate. So you can find a little sample rubric right here if you would like a little more information about what I'm looking for. Otherwise, again, better to give me too much than not enough. Kind of elaborate, but I do have a rubric and a sample right here if you're like. So you'll watch the video, and then this one is on chapter 1. So here's the prompt, right? Make sure you answer these 3 questions in detail. Again, I go over them in the video. But you'll hit reply when you're ready. You can see some people have already done it, or one person, Samantha, already did it. Nice job, Samantha. And then you'll want to read through some of your classmates' responses and hit reply to one of them. So not a bad idea to save your responses, save your answers just in case something goes wrong. But again, really elaborate, show off your knowledge and understanding. That's discussion 1. Discussion number 2 related to chapter 2. Again, you'll see the same thing, right? So at the top, you have my instructions, followed by my video, followed by the prompt. Okay, and when you're ready, you'll hit reply. So every week you follow like a very similar format of reading 2 chapters, which again, read it in the book, read the lecture, watch the lecture video, and then you'll have 2 discussions. I'll always post the recording of these live streams so that you can watch it later. If you're not able to make this time live, which I totally understand, it's right in the middle of the day. So they will be recorded and posted. You can still do the extra credit that I'm going to give in a few minutes. If you are subscribed on Twitch, I'm able to monitor that you watched it, and that will allow me to do that. The other thing is, as you can see, week number 2 is open. So next week on our live stream, I'll go over week 2. We'll talk about the discussions, the exam, how to take the exam and tips and so on. And then there's always going to be like a little checklist at the end of the 2 weeks that are open, just to make sure that you did everything that was assigned. So if you focus this week on week number 1, you'll be in really good shape. The only exception, again, make sure you get your textbook and do that mandatory orientation quiz by tonight, since it's due this evening. So what I'll do typically is kind of after I've gone over everything, I'll give you a couple of quick reminders. I typically write these out ahead of time for myself. So the first one, as I mentioned earlier, if you could take a few minutes and try and find me on YouTube and Twitch, that would be really helpful today. That way you can find me on those platforms and access everything really easily. The other thing, and I'll put this in the chat, I'll remind you each week about our next live stream. So I'm going to put this in the chat here in just a second. I'm sorry, for some reason my audio isn't working. Give me just a second. Somebody sent me a question. Give me one sec. All right. So sorry, I was just responding to someone on there. So if you look at, oh, it kicked me out. Why did it kick me out? Technology hasn't been my friend today. Okay, so our next live stream will be on the 22nd. So on the 22nd, we will have our next live stream. Let me see if I can put that in the chat. Our next Twitch live stream will be on Wednesday, October 22nd at 11:45 a.m. Okay, so I try really hard to keep these at a similar day and time every week. Sometimes they change if something comes up, but next week 11:45, same time, same place. I'll go over the first exam and so on next week just to make sure that you're feeling good about it. One last thing I'd like to then share with you. Joining me live, you can put your first and last name in the chat. Unless you're subscribed, then you don't need to worry about it. But what I will do each week is I will give you a Twitch extra credit question. So this is the week number 1 extra credit. And these are worth 2 points each. So if you were to do each one of these, you could get up to, what is that? We have 16 points, which would make up for a missed discussion or some missed points on an exam or so on. So what I'll do is I'll give you a question and then I'll show you where you can answer it and kind of walk you through that. If you're watching this later as a recording, you can still do that if you're subscribed on Twitch. So the number 1 question, week number 1, is what does the phrase correlation versus causation mean? Describe and give an example. And I'll show you where you do that, not here in the chat, but I'll show you. So what does the phrase correlation versus causation mean? Describe and give an example. So when you're ready to answer that, you'll go back to Canvas. And since we're in week 1, you'll click on optional Twitch extra credit number 1 right here under week 1. And then up at the top, there's this little box where it says start assignment. And it'll remind you right here that if you are watching this live, then you've covered that. If you're watching this as a recording and you're subscribed, you can still do it. But you'll hit start assignment, and then it brings up a little box where you can type your response, and then go ahead and hit submit. And it gives you like a little confetti burst and thumbs up. It's always something random and different. But these are worth 2 points. You have all the way until October 26th, the end of these first 2 weeks, to do it. I would really recommend doing them. They're going to help you make up like missed points here or there if you miss something on like an exam or a discussion or whatnot. But for this week, for right now, again, biggest reminders, read through the syllabus, read through the welcome letter, the mandatory orientation lecture. Make sure you get your book and take the quiz by tonight. There's that little introductions discussion, and then you can start weeks 1 and 2. So next week, when I see you on Wednesday, I will go over week number 2. I'll give you some tips on exam 1 and all of that. Otherwise, I tried to keep this as short as possible. We're at like 30 minutes. I know I was talking kind of fast, so it is recorded. But if you have any questions, this is a really wonderful opportunity to ask me. You can put them in the chat, and I would be more than happy to go show you something again or walk through something again if you're confused. Otherwise, we are officially kind of done for today. If you don't have any questions, you're welcome to go. Thank you so much for those of you who have joined me on here live. I don't get to see you in person, so this is as close to live as we get. If you have any questions or if you think of something, feel free to put it in the chat. Otherwise, you're welcome to go take care of all of those things we just went over. And then I will, of course, be checking my email. If you think of something later, you can always email me tonight or tomorrow or whenever. But I'm going to put it in the chat here. Thank you all so much for joining me. I hope you're feeling okay about everything and that it all feels pretty clear. If you have any questions, put them in the chat. Otherwise, you two have a wonderful day, a wonderful week. I will hang out for a little while if you have any questions, but I'm going to minimize my video just so I'm not staring at myself. But if you think of anything, put it in the chat. Otherwise, I will hope to see a bunch of you next week, right? I hope you have a wonderful week and a wonderful day. And if you think of something, feel free to put it in there. I thank you all as well. Put that in the chat. And I'll hang out, like I said, for about 5 minutes or so if you have any questions. Otherwise, I'll hope to see you next week. All right. And I am still here. Thank you. Right. Have a wonderful day, everyone. And like I said, I am still here if you have any questions. So I'm glad you asked. So the internet was experiencing, yeah, the internet's always a thing of of problem, isn't it? So the mandatory orientation quiz is on the ebook site. So Psyched is our main textbook. And up at the top where it says exams, you'll click on exams and it brings up this mandatory orientation quiz. And I pointed out earlier that your score doesn't come over to Canvas automatically, so don't worry too much about that. But do be sure to take it on here before 11:59 p.m. tonight, and that's where you'll take it. All the exams are actually on this ebook site. And if you're on Canvas, it'll remind you of that. So, like if you click on it here on Canvas, there's also a link to the ebook site in case you forgot. So, hopefully that helps a little bit. Everything, all the exams are on the Psyched ebook page. The extra credit question it'll be something that we covered this week, right? So that one was all about correlation and causation. So for week number one, that will be in chapter number one, or chapter number two, sorry. So psychology as a science, that's something that's covered in there. So it'll almost always be something that's covered in the lecture, right? Or in the textbook. So this one is all about like, here you can find it in this video in correlation versus causation. So it'll always be something that's covered in that week's material. Sure. You're welcome. You're welcome. No, so all you'll do for the exams, so is you'll take them on the ebook site, right? And then once the deadline passes, I go on to the ebook site and I just bring your scores over manually. So as long as you submit the quiz here on the ebook site, when I tomorrow, after the deadline is passed, I'll bring all those scores into Canvas and you'll be all set. So nope, you just have to go onto the ebook site and take everything on there. That's where all the exams and things can be found. You're welcome. You're welcome. I'll hang out for another couple of minutes if anyone has any other questions. Otherwise, again, if you think of something later, you're always welcome to email me if something comes up later today. All right, everyone, it looks like most of you have logged out, so I'm going to go ahead and close this up. But again, if you think of something, feel free to email me. Have a wonderful day, and thank you so much for those of you who joined me today live.